over pull-ups. Let me just see who we have here.
Okay, guys, so feel free to go. I'm not talking. I'm done. You go. Take over.
I'm just going to go over some common problems that we have with pull-ups, as well as some areas that you might be struggling with the pull-ups. So if at any point you have any questions or more specific questions to a specific area you're having trouble with, feel free to just interrupt. But if not, then we'll get started. Hold on. Phone's ringing.
I thought you were watching cartoons.
Oh, no. Phone's ringing. Okay, guys. So a few areas I've noticed most people struggle with. It's either going to be a strength issue, so you're not strong enough, or it's going to be a positional strength issue. So what I mean by that is just a specific position throughout the movement that you might be sort of stuck in or have trouble with. So I'm going to be breaking down the different areas or the different positions in that I notice most people struggle with the most. So first one, obviously starting from the bottom, is going to be the dead hang. So from here, this might be if you're a complete beginner or you're not able to get a complete pull-up yet. This will just be strength to hold yourself up. So you might have strong lats or a strong pull, but you're just not strong in this particular position. So here, if you're someone who struggles with just holding their own body weight up, I would suggest doing dead hang holds for this one. Moving up from there, I'm going to go to what I call the turtle. So this is just the start position. So you'll notice most people, when they're doing a pull-up, for example, they might be here, and then they'll tend to sort of end up in this position where their traps and shoulders are all bunched up here. So most people here, there's a few issues. Either they might be gripping the bar too close, so then from here you have sort of nowhere to go. Or it could just be you're not pulling into your lats. So most people will sort of start in the pull-up position and pull straight. So if you look on an angle, you kind of want to get that motion. So that's from the bottom to the top. And then the third position I kind of noticed people struggling with, and that's just once they sort of get one to two pull-ups, they'll sort of be able to pull from the bottom to here, and then it's just that last sort of little bit that they have trouble getting over. So we're just going to break down those three different areas that people struggle with, as well as different positions throughout there. So again, back to the beginning. With the dead hang and just having that sort of initial pull, we want to make sure that our first starting position and our first pull is strong, right? Because that's where we're going to start with. So with the turtle position, one thing that you can do to help out a lot with that spot is warming up with scap pull-ups. So that looks, you're going to be here when you're hanging from the bar, and that's just bringing your scap down and back up. So warming up with proper positioning of the scap is a good way to start for anyone who's struggling with that sort of turtling position. Another good one to do to emphasize proper position in the start besides the scap pull-ups is also a hollow body hold. Most people in the start of the pull-up will sort of tend to hyperextend their back and try to really pull this way. So we want to emphasize proper positioning in that first pull with the scap pull-ups and a hollow body hold, keeping that core tight and engaged. A second point that I see a lot of people struggle with is not so much positional, but how to even get their lats going, or how to use their lats, how to engage their lats, how to activate their lats. Quite a few people struggle with that. So a good way to even sort of start feeling those out is to, if you were to do a front double bicep, like literally just flexing. So bringing it down, holding in tension, and then sort of bring the elbows forward. It'll help you sort of feel that lat. Just because I know a lot of people struggle to even feel them or feel them engaged. Yeah, so if you're starting at the top here, bring your arms down, but just be sort of flexing the whole time, and then here, and then just bring those arms almost forward. But again, the whole time you want to be maintaining tension and flexing, come down and squeeze forward. And that'll just sort of help you feel the lats. From there, if you're someone that struggles to activate your lats before, during pull-ups, some of my favorite exercises for this are going to be, if you have access to a band, you can either loop it around something, and you're going to do the straight arm. I'm going to demo with my arms. You're going to do that straight arm bend down. You can either do that with just the band, or if you have a PVC to pass through, bringing the band down this way will help you feel your lats there as well. Another really, really good exercise to sort of get your lats going or feel them a bit more would be a steel row. So for that, you're just going to lie down on a bench, and it's the same as a bent over row, except now you're lying down. So I find those two exercises a really good way to start engaging your lats or feeling your lats more during the pull-up. Another point to make too, with the pull-up, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people tend to sort of, their first pull in the pull-up is just sort of straight up and shrugging those shoulders. A good way to feel the lats and get them engaged too is to do almost like a front lever as a warm-up, not a full front lever. So that's just where you would be hanging, and you're going to bring your legs out in front of you. A front lever is really, really hard to do. I can't fully do one, but I find sort of bringing the legs forward into that angle helps get my lats warmed up and primed for the same sort of motion that I'm going to be doing in a pull-up. Because like I said, most people have the tendency to sort of just pull straight up and end up in this position. So you want to get your lats used to being in that position there. So doing that sort of just almost like a tiny front lever variation there at the start of my pull-ups will help me get primed for the proper starting position. Yeah, and then just wanted to talk about some of my favorite variations as well that I find have helped the most. So one of those is going to be an inverted body weight row. You can do this with rings, you can do this with a pull-up bar. You can even do it with a sort of like a low hanging table if you have one. And that's just where you're pulling your body weight up. Another one is going to be the negative pull-ups. With the negative pull-ups, I like to eliminate the jump, just because I find a lot of people will sort of jump up and then spend too much time trying to stabilize at the top. And then you're already, if you're not strong in your pull-ups, you've already wasted a ton of energy to sort of trying to stabilize yourself at the top before you've even begun your movement. So what I like to do is just get the box high enough up near your pull-up bar that you're already in this position. From there, then let yourself down very, very slowly, right? Then you're eliminating all that wasted effort and energy at the top trying to stabilize yourself. A good way to keep track of these would be to, your first one, do it as long as you can, right? So take that negative and slow it down for as long as you possibly can. And then from there, try accumulating 20 seconds of negative pull-up time, however you want to break that down, whether that's in 2 sets or multiple sets, but accumulate that sort of 20 seconds of coming down. And then each week you can add, or each session that you have, you can add an extra 2 seconds to the total time that you are under tension. And the idea there is just to get your pull-ups used to being strong in that position. from there, probably another one of my all-time favorites, and this just goes for gaining strength in with many movements, is going to be our isometric holds. So again, with a pull-up, a lot of us might have strong pull-ups or strong lats, or might have a strong pull. We're just not strong in that position. So a good way to get used to being stronger there, or stronger in different positions throughout the pull-up, is to do an iso hold. So depending on where you're weakest, you can choose from there, or you could do, like I said, we have the dead hang hold where you're just hanging at the bottom. Another good one too would be chin over the top, and you're just gonna hold there as well, or even at the 90 degrees. And again, that's just gonna emphasize different positions throughout the pull-up and getting our lats stronger in all those different positions. That's just a sort of brief breakdown there. Does anyone have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns so far?
Do you see, when you're watching people doing pull-ups, what part of the pull-up do you find that's the weakest? It could be like a small segment, it could be a big segment. Is there something that you think that, us CrossFitters and members try to do, that we don't focus or put enough attention on certain angles of the pull-ups?
Two things. One, I think I see most people struggle with sort of just even that starting position, where they're just sort of like turtling up. And again, that's just people not using their lats correctly. In terms of CrossFitters, I find the biggest issue would be, especially with a pull-up, like positional strength. Like most people can do a bunch of skipping pull-ups, or can do a bunch of other movements, so they're really strong with a pull, but they haven't trained their lats to sort of work in that plane of motion, so they're not as strong in that plane of motion, I find.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that because everyone wants to jump to kipping because it's so cool at the beginning, and it's motivating going from no pull-ups to all of a sudden I can rep out some kipping. But I find exactly what you said, that from here to here, like even though it seems so minuscule and so small, that's where we lose a lot of strength in that position. And that, because we're starting off in that way, that means that we're not putting our shoulders into a good position, and then all kinds of impinging and stuff like that happens. And obviously I'm going to be a little sensitive to the subject because I messed up my shoulder so bad, especially from doing such crappy movement quality and taking certain muscles for granted. So I had the opportunity to see what it's like to do that, to the point you break yourself down, to the point that you have to bring yourself back up and realize that those small movements and taking time to prime yourself, and like doing those things like front levers are such awesome exercises that people should incorporate on top of the general programming.
I kind of wanted to add to that question as well.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead, Ginette.
So to add to Chris's question, a lot of times when I'm coaching, I see, because like you said, people are so focused on going fast and getting those reps in, they forget to control that motion coming down. So this is where those like isometric holds and those tempo things come into play. And it really benefits you, because then you're protecting your shoulders on the way down, and you're working your muscles the opposite way as well, which I think kind of benefits you a lot, because it just gives you that like it kind of bulletproofs your shoulders. So when you do go to like a competition or something where you're focused more on the intensity, not so much the movement pattern, you can kind of, I don't want to say like not focus on it, but you can get away with it a little bit because you've spent so much time doing it before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it provides like a really, really good, having strict pull-ups or having that strict strength is a really, really good foundation for any CrossFit movement. And with pull-ups specifically, like having that strict strength to hold yourself up, it comes in really handy with when you're trying to learn like all the other movements, skipping pull-ups, butterfly pull-ups, because then you're able to hold yourself up there, right? It's just getting the movement down. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, I also
What do you
wanted
think
to
of,
add just
say, a
one
newbie
small
trying to
small
get
thing
to
as
that?
well.
ask, I mean,
go
for
ahead.
me,
Sorry, go ahead. We had like 5 people, including me, talking. I'm going to be quiet now. Someone go ahead.
I was
Ella, go
just
ahead.
going to ask that. I mean, for me, I try to, so I can get 3 keeping pull-ups done pretty well. And then after that, you know, my 5th one's kind of slack. So I kind of stop. But I can probably do 1 really good strict pull-up. So should I be focusing more on the strict pull-ups and then the kipping will come? Because the kipping was like a challenge for me. And then I was so happy when I finally was able to do 1, and now I can do 3 and 5 sloppy, but 3 well. So should I kind of focus on strict when we're finally back at the gym, or should I just kind of flip flop between both just for motivation and confidence? Because, you know, the strict one, I can do 1 really well, but after that, it's just.
You can do both. I have a strong bias towards strength here. But yes, getting your strict pull-ups is only going to help you have a better foundation for your kipping pull-ups. With your kipping pull-ups, what you need more of is technique. And here with your strict pull-ups, you need more strength, which just takes a bit of a longer time to build. But especially if you already have that 1 rep in, which I find is crucial in doing pull-ups. Once you have that first strict pull-up, after that, it gets a lot easier with adding more. It's just staying consistent with it. So even if you can only do 1, is consistently adding that 1 pull-up to when you do your upper body sessions. And then just next time adding 2 and so on. Because that's another thing actually I find with the pull-ups is a lot of times, especially women can only do, let's say you can do 1 to 2 pull-ups. I find a lot of women are sometimes embarrassed almost to be at the gym and just be doing their 1 to 2 pull-ups because they don't have enough. And I was there too when I first started doing pull-ups. I didn't really want to be doing pull-ups at the gym because I was like, I can only do 1. I don't really want anyone to see me just doing 1. That's kind of lame. But that's how you start, right? So just start adding in that pull-up into your upper body strength stuff, and they'll pick up that way. Okay, anyone else? I know there's a bunch of people talking earlier.
I think the other thing you can add on is like with that Alla is like, you don't ever think that in CrossFit you have to do like 20 reps unbroken. Like even the majority of CrossFit athletes, if they're doing so many rounds, won't always go like 20 reps unbroken. Like there's lots of times like Chris will beat us in WOD doing singles. And we're like, how? But like so it's that break to rest issue. So I think we sometimes see the CrossFit Games athletes and we're like, I need to be able to do like 64 pull-ups in a row, unbroken, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, those expectations are like really not good expectations to have. And if you just even do like your quick sets of 3 reps, you'll get through it so fast.
I'm late to this conversation, but I just feel like saying that when I first started CrossFit, I couldn't even do singles. Like I was really, really, really weak in pulling. And I just did a ton of volume of singles for a long time until I could do more. It was the same thing. I know it's not pull-ups, but handstand push-ups. I did for like 2 years. There was no such thing as kipping back then. So I couldn't even do singles of handstand push-ups. I would just do negatives, right? So that's even like another option. If you to add in volume, you can take the negative, jump up to the top of the pull-up bar, come down slowly with the box into your feet, keep jumping up. You could do sets of 10, right? Where you jump up, control down. I used to do that with handstand push-ups. So I would kick up the wall, come down as slow as possible till my head hit the ground. My feet would come off the wall. I'd kick back up the wall, come down as slow as possible. And it took me like 2 years to get my first handstand push-up, but I basically did 2 years of negatives. With pull-ups, obviously with bands, but like there's so many different variety of ways that you can add in volume. And even if it's singles, but even if you do, sorry, I got some drills going on behind me. It's probably really loud. All I'm saying, doing singles isn't bad. Just get in that volume. I'll turn my sound off for now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, people underestimate the power of one, right? If you can do one, or if you can do even part of the movement, then that's already a lot. I find a lot of people tend to sort of get hung up on the fact that they can only do one or they can't do the full movement. But it's all about starting, like we all know, that starting with where you are and what you have, right? So taking whatever movement or whatever portion of the movement you're capable of, and then from there, breaking it down, like Steve said, adding volume, getting those reps in.
I'm not sure if you talked about it, but did you talk about at all like different angles of pulling?
A little bit. We touched on it a little bit, yeah. What did you mean?
Like there's different angles. So for example, like if you have one of those traditional pull-up bars that has hands this way, hands this way, hands this way, hands wide, you might find that you're better at certain pulling positions, worse at others. So you could that's another way that you can increase volume, right? It's like spend some time in close grip, spend some time in supinated grip, spend some time in wide grip. For example, in a CrossFit gym, like I spent a lot of time on rings, doing rings, hands facing. This is where I was actually like the weakest for me. I would actually suggest, usually for women, I would actually not go narrow. I would go wide. The wider is usually better for lats, which is usually the biggest thing that's missing for women. A lot of the times in CrossFit, you see a lot of CrossFit athletes, like women, female CrossFit athletes, have really overly developed traps, which some people are like, oh, so cool, she's got huge traps, but it's like, that's actually not the muscle you should be using for pulling. It's actually it's a bad thing that CrossFit athletes have big traps. It's actually not what you should want, because a lot of them pull with their traps. So getting out wide, literally, you can see how it literally separates the neck, and using your lats to get way, way stronger. That's actually how you're going to stay way further away from any sort of injury, especially from a competitive side. So, you know, playing around with different angles of the hands, and just basically doing pull-ups from a wide variety of angles. Another thing too is, like, even if you have good pull-ups, right now, me and Chris, for the last few weeks, we've been doing a lot of banded pull-ups. We've been doing way more reps than we're not used to doing. We've been doing a lot more tempo, a lot wider grip, or pausing, things like that. Even though we're good at pull-ups, this is a way for us to continuously work on little different variations of what we're not good at. I'm gonna log out and log back in.
Okay, if I cut out, guys, by the way, my internet's being a little sketchy right now. Recommendation for pull-up programs. Vic, did you mean like general programs, or? I don't know if Vic can hear us. I don't particularly know of any like general types of programs for that. I don't know if any of the other coaches might know of one. Oh, recommendation for pull-up programs. Okay, so Steve says there's a general one. For beginners. And we had Nancy, how often should you practice pull-ups in a week? This again entirely depends on sort of your goals. Cool, thanks, Steve. Yeah, this sort of depends on your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. So typically, I'll have pull-ups programmed in my programming at least 1 to 2 times a week, and that's just for general strength. Again, it depends entirely if you're what you're trying to achieve. And I think at the start, when you're first trying to get pull-ups or any movement that's sort of newer or that we're still trying to get positionally strong in, I like to add them in more frequently just to get my body used to those positions. So for me right now, I'm working on some different gymnastic stuff. So I'll add it in like 3 to 4 times a week, but I won't go too crazy with the volume. I just like to add it in that often just to sort of, like I said, get myself used to moving in that plane. One more thing with the pull-ups, I think, unless anyone else has more questions. With the pull-ups and different variations or different progressions that you use or different exercises that you use to get stronger in, they're all going to depend on from person to person, right? So there's tons and tons of, if you Google pull-up accessories, pull-up variations, there's tons and tons out there. However, I find there's, you're going to have some that work better for you or some that you prefer. So it's a good idea to test out different, like even Steve was saying, the different positions of your hand, test out different back exercises, different drills to warm up. Because I have my own personal favorite that I find work better for me. But again, there's tons and tons of exercises out there that can help you with your pull-ups. It just depends on which ones work the best for you as well. Anyone else have thoughts, questions, comments?
Just coming back to Nancy's question, I would say too, like, you know, working on pull-ups per se is one aspect of getting stronger at pulling, right? So how often should you work on pull-ups? That can be, you know, 2 or 3 days a week, or you can be 1 day a week is like a major focus is working on pull-ups, where another day doing actual pull-ups can be a small portion of working on getting stronger at pulling. You know, doing bent over rows, training your lats, working on specifically your biceps, working on specifically your grip. Like if you wanted to focus on pulling, that could essentially be like a 5 day a week thing. And, you know, 1 day maybe like a really big focus session on pulling or pull-ups, specifically pull-ups. And maybe you're going to do banded pull-ups and you're going to do negatives and you're going to do jumping pull-ups and then you're going to do kipping, whatever. And then on another day of the week, after a full training session, you worked on your grip. And then on another session after your training session, you worked on bent over rows and you worked specifically on your lats. And then after another session, you worked specifically on your biceps. And then now maybe it's Saturday and I did some more pull-ups, right? Like what you want to think of it, don't necessarily just think of it as pull-ups, as much as we're here to talk about pull-ups, think about it as pulling strength. What are all the different things that are required for pulling strength? It's grip, it's back, it's biceps, it's you know, obviously a little bit of shoulders, you got some rhomboids in there. Like there's a ton of things you could do. It just, how quickly do you want to get there? And like Nidia said, it's like, how quickly do you want to work on those goals? How important are they to you? If you're like, I am awesome at pressing, I'm a great presser, I am here in pressing, but I'm down here in pulling. If you can sacrifice this time, that's fine. Sacrifice that time to do more of this will go up.
It just comes down to how quickly you want it. If you're like, but I love doing overhead and I love doing split jerks and all that stuff, well, at the end of the day, you got to have fun too, right? So you got to do what you want to do, but you could make pulling a 5-day-a-week thing. But, you know, I wouldn't suggest doing pull-ups every day, right? You don't want to overuse those specific, that specific movement, right? Because that's when you're going to get tendon issues and things like that that are going to bother you. Grip.
Yeah,
Grip.
those are really good. Grip.
Yeah, I'll let you go for it.
Yeah, that was a really good explanation, though, Steve. Thanks. Yeah, you could break it down into a bunch of different areas of what you want to work on for that one particular movement. Grip strength. My favorite easy way to work on grip strength, especially right now with the limited equipment that we have, is I'll take, I only have, I think, like a set of 4 dumbbells, but I like to take the dumbbells and so I'll wrap, like I have my hand wrap, and I'll wrap it around the handle portion of my dumbbells just to make it thicker. And I've been taking those for farmers carries. That's if you're sort of limited with equipment. In terms of the pull-up too and the grip strength pull-up there, if you have access to a pull-up bar, like I said, the dead hang is a really, really good one to work on your grip specific to holding your body weight. And again, that one you just need to hang. Even if you have just something, an overhang to hang from, that's a really good one as well. And Ginette said earlier, I think scaling appropriately is important as well. Yep. Okay, guys, any other thoughts, comments, concerns, questions?
I guess I would just say, in terms of like people getting their pull-ups, don't be too quick to like give up on it. Pull-ups are like a long-term game. It's not the kind of thing where, like, we're naturally better at pushing for the most part. Most people are. Like, if you do a push-up one day and you did 1 push-up a day, like, you can get to 2 push-ups very quickly. Going from 1 pull-up to 2 pull-ups is not the equivalent of going from 1 push-up to 2 push-ups. Be in it for a long period of time, especially if it already is something that is a weakness of yours. Adding in more and more volume slowly over time, as opposed to being like, I'm going to try to crush it this week, and then it didn't work, and now I'm over it, now I quit, right? Like, let it be a long process, because there's so much moving pieces in it that it's not as simple as it actually looks. And I would say, you know, if you're really wanting to get good at any sort of pull-ups, don't get suckered into just jumping into doing kipping, right? So if you're like, I really want to work on pull-ups, and I started working on my pull-ups this day, and then I wasn't working, so I'm just going to start kipping. You're like, it's basically, I don't know how to say it other than it's like cheating. Like, you're not getting the same work out of the kipping pull-up. Don't get me wrong, kipping pull-ups have a purpose, and literally the purpose of kipping pull-ups is to do more reps faster, right? It's not to make you stronger. It was never intended to make you stronger. It was literally designed so that you can do the same workout quicker than the next guy next to you in competition. So, you know, take the long road and just work on it. And if it doesn't get like significantly better in a really short period of time, that's okay. Like, it's going to take time. It will take time. Oh, we're getting loud. I'm out.
Thanks. Yeah, strength takes time. So pull-ups are going to take time. It's not going to be a quick process. I also liked what someone said in the chat earlier as well about making videos. It definitely helps to take videos, not just for the pull-ups, it's for any movement that you're trying to get better at. It helps a ton to take videos of yourself. And even you yourself can take a look at the video afterwards and just sort of see, okay, I was pulling too soon there, or I was pulling too far this way, and you can kind of take a look at the video and see where you can make improvements. Or even you could send the videos to your coaches, have them take a look as well, see where you can make improvements. But no one has any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? All right, guys, if that's everyone, then yeah, let me know if you have, if you guys have any questions as well afterwards. If you guys need any help with your guys' pull-ups, I'm more than happy to help. If not, I think that will be it for today. Or if you want the general access to the pull-up program too, send Steve an email. All right, guys, thank you. Send Steve an email if you want the pull-up program.
Thanks, Nidia.
Welcome.
See you guys.
Bye, friends.